Politics and neurodiverse people don't go together very well. And like I mentioned, we're not creating unspoken social norms. Hiring process barriers. A lot of the way we hire, recruit people is based on neurotypical folks. I get it, 80%. But sometimes it kind of works against neurodiverse people. Sometimes we get really anxious if we're going for an interview and we're interviewing with 4 or 5 people at once. Can really we're not really able to show our true sense. I remember when I was at Canadian Tire, I wanted to get a marketing job and I was in customer service. And this is an internal job. And I interviewed 10 times. And I couldn't get it for 10 times because I'd turn red during the interview. And I would stutter a little bit, and the manager thought, no. So I finally had to go a different path. But yeah, sometimes the hiring process doesn't play to our strengths. Lack of accommodations, much better now. Much better now. When I was young, there was no accommodation. You basically had to make your own accommodation or fake it or do whatever you had to do. But some companies don't have flexible work schedules. You're lucky. I think you guys have a hybrid approach here. Very fortunate. A lot of companies don't have that. Quiet spaces, different communication, little things like wearing noise-canceling headphones go a long way for folks, just to keep their concentration. And stigma and misunderstanding. There is a pretty big stigma for neurodiverse people. A lot of stereotypes out there, biases, negative perceptions, things like that. And that can lead to discrimination and exclusion. So that can be a little tough too. And burnout and other mental health issues. Masking, like I said, we often mask. It's easier to mask sometimes. We just put on another mask and say, yeah, I'm neurotypical, look at me, right? And that's easier to blend in, but it's incredibly exhausting. And you kind of feel like you're selling your soul a bit. You're not really being yourself. So you end up, not being very successful sometimes. And also, we often, like I said, we work harder too to try to make up for some of the perceived deficiencies, and that can lead to real burnout. I burned out about 22 years ago. Horrible, massively. Took me a year to recover. Horrible, really hard on my family, on everything. And I wish I would have known that, obviously before, but these are real risks that neurodiverse folks face in the workplace. So let's talk about a few biases too of neurodiverse employees. Normalcy bias, neurotypical behavior is seen as the standard. Ability bias, someone's potential is judged solely on their neurodivergence, so they only see some of our challenges, they might not see our strengths. Confirmation bias, people think, yeah, he's neurodiverse, watch. Yeah, look at him, see, I told you he's neurodiverse, he's acting like that. So they have pre-existing stereotypes, and we're perceived only in that way. Time pressure bias, sometimes it takes us a little longer to process things. Sometimes it takes us a little longer, right? So people equate that with being unintelligent. And the reality is that neurodiverse people are just as intelligent as everyone else. In fact, some of us, folks who are savants, are at the highest level of intelligence. So it's not fair to really think that we're not intelligent. And then affinity bias is about people just saying, unconsciously they say, if I'm neurotypical, I want to work with other neurotypical people, right? So these are all, you might not even mean it, but it's just part of that. So these are some of the biases we face at work. So let's switch gears now. Let's go to a more positive side, and let's talk about what you can do to create an environment that allows neurodiverse folks to thrive. And some of this will just flow naturally from a lot of the challenges I've talked about earlier. So the first one is varied workstations, right? If you can create some varied workstations, maybe some quiet workstations, if you can allow folks to use noise-canceling headphones. I know I use them at the gym, I love it. I don't have to hear anything, right? A lot of people like them in the office. If you're gonna do some construction or test a fire alarm, just let everyone know in advance so they can plan for it, get ready for it. Allow flexibility in work attire. Sometimes we wear different things. We like to express ourselves. Look at my rings. And does anyone here like the Rolling Stones? Anyone here like the Rolling Stones? Some people, a little bit. Okay, I like the Rolling Stones too. I'm just telling you a story. I like the Rolling Stones too. But I got into them late in life. Right? I got into them maybe in 2018. But having OCD, I really got into them. Okay? Really deep into them quickly. To the point where I thought it was prudent to dress up like Keith Richards for one of my retail interviews on Global News. That's the kind of stuff we do, okay? Eyeliner and the scarf and everything was beautiful. And all my daughter's friends quietly texted them and said, "Is your dad okay?" And I said, "I'm great, I'm just having fun." So sometimes we do things different. It's just who we are, you know? So don't be alarmed if we fidget or take breaks or do things, especially if you have ADHD. You gotta move around every few minutes. You can't sit still for an hour. Another thing you can do, communication is big, like I mentioned. If you can communicate in detail, extreme detail, that's really helpful. I remember I've gotten into trouble a few times in my life where I had some sparse details and I was too shy to